Hi, good morning, everyone. Nice to see some of you saying hi on the chat. Please feel free to pop your messages on there and welcome. So my name's Claudia Limpert and I'm a project manager at the Wales Cooperative Centre, and I'm going to be your chair for this morning's session. I'd like to wish you all a really warm welcome. This is day 2 of our Tech Fest for Social Good, which is part of the Digital Leaders Week 2021, hosted by the Wales Cooperative Centre and sponsored by Digital Leaders, the Wales Council for Voluntary Action and Welsh Government. The Wales Cooperative Centre are delighted to be hosting another week-long virtual festival to celebrate and showcase the benefits of digital technology for social good. This free festival will bring together experts from across the public, private, third and social business sectors to share experience and knowledge and inspire others to explore the potential of digital technology to improve people's lives and the communities that they live in. If you're a social enterprise, cooperative, charity, not-for-profit, public sector body or community group that wants to explore tech for good and all that means, you've come to the right place. We invite you to take a look at all the events we're running this week, and please do feel free to sign up to them still. We're incredibly pleased that you've been able to join us this morning for our first event on our Communities Day, where we're looking at how to achieve successful community engagement online. I don't really have any housekeeping announcements this morning. There shouldn't be a fire drill in this virtual space. You will have to sort your own refreshments, and I hope you already know where the toilets are. However, if you are having any difficulties with Remo, then please do get in touch with Gemma Murphy. Remo is new to all of us and it should all go really smoothly, but if you do have any issues, you can just pop Gemma a message and she can help you out. One feature that is particularly useful is in the top right of your screens, next to the Remo logo, you should be able to see a little calendar icon. If you click on that, you'll see a full running order for today's event. Also on the top right of the screen, there's a chat function to send messages, and I can see lots of people already saying hello. There's a list of participants in today's event, and there's a question and answer feature, which I'll talk a bit more about later when we get to the Q&A session. One of my colleagues is also going to share instructions in the chat on how you can turn on live captions if that's something that you'd like to do as well. So with no further ado, I'm going to invite the fantastic speakers that we have today onto the stage. They're each going to quickly say hello and introduce who we are, and then we'll start going through each of their presentations that they have. So Serena, Wynne and Luke, if you guys can pop your cameras on and pop your mics on and come and join me up on the stage, we'll do some quick introductions. That's great. So all three on the stage. I'll pass you to Serena first, if you could just quickly introduce yourself.
Morning, everybody. Bore da. Hi, I'm Serena, and I oversee the online community, peer support community Talking Point at Alzheimer's Society. Nice to be with you this morning.
Thanks, Serena. Wynne, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Wynne Roberts from Mentertyn Llan in a little village called Llandorog, just outside Carnarvon. We've recently run a community share offer to buy our local pub.
Fantastic, thanks, Wynne. And Luke?
Hi everyone, I'm the operations manager for Technocamps at Swansea University. We're a schools outreach program that does a lot of computer science-based lessons in schools.
Fantastic, thanks everyone. So we've got some really exciting topics to hear about today. So Luke and Wynne, if you guys can pop your cameras off and leave the stage, then Serena, over to you for your presentation.
Great, thank you very much, Claudia. Hi, everybody. Hi, I'm Serena. Like I said earlier, I oversee the online community, peer support community at Alzheimer's Society. We support people across England, Wales and Northern Ireland and beyond. And I'm going to be talking through how we went from one idea to 18 years. So I'm just going to attempt to share now, and hopefully you'll be able to see my slides. Excellent. Okay, so So hi, great to be with you this morning. Like I said, I'm going to be telling you the story of one idea that is still going strong as an active peer support online community 18 years later. I'm going to talk about the impact of the online community, the advantages and the challenges of online peer support communities, and share my community top tips from 12 years of building online community in health charities. So let me tell you a little bit about how my online community, Dementia Talking Point, or Talking Point once we get to know it a little bit more. Here's the story of how it started. So Craig Clark worked in IT, and then his dad was diagnosed with dementia, unfortunately. And as an online forum regular working in the IT world, he discovered there wasn't anywhere to go to discuss the reality of dementia online. So he approached Alzheimer's Society. And the organisation at the time said, well, why don't we build it with you? So this is where we are now. So founded in 2003, a year before Facebook, Dementia Talking Point is one of the largest dementia-focused online communities in the world. From 2003 to now, we have welcomed and supported 79,000 people. That's more people than the capacity of Old Trafford's football stadium, Manchester United's football stadium. I like that visual to get an idea of how many people we've helped. Over 22,000 people in Wales visited our community last year in 2020. And in 2019, we published our best member survey results so far. So you can see we've had quite a journey, as they say in reality TV, to get from 2003 with just one idea and one person through to where we are now. So let me tell you a little bit about peer support communities and the advantages. So broadly, peer support communities are basically a place where people can talk to each other and support each other with a particular life circumstance experience. So there are 5 big advantages, I think, to peer support online community. It breaks down barriers of time and space. You don't have to be in the same room as somebody. You don't have to be there in the same moment as them. You can still engage and connect and receive support, which is really great. The second thing about online communities is that you can contribute at your own pace and you can tell your own story over time. You've not got that pressure of just one interaction. You can continue to build and develop your story and your experience as you go. The third thing really is to think about anonymity. There is a real big benefit to anonymity, and many online community platforms allow you to remain anonymous, and that helps when sharing sensitive issues. The fourth thing is thinking about how people can express themselves in different ways on an online community. They might use a diary format to tell their experience over time. They might be using questions and just coming in at as and when they go with a topic. They might be using creative writing to express how they're feeling and how they're coping. And also there's always fun and games. Wherever you start an online community, you will have an off-topic area, whether you like it or not. But it is quite great because it gives people the opportunity to connect around something that is not just their health experience or their life experience. And the fifth thing is online community. Many platforms for online community allow you to actively manage your features and your moderation, which gives your members peace of mind. There are a number of quite large social media platforms out there that don't often offer that level of freedom. So that's why an independent online community platform is often a really good way to go. So let's think a little bit now about the challenges of online community for peer support. So the first thing to think about is that you really do, with an open digital space that's pretty much open 24/7, as most online spaces are, unless they're sessional, you need to think about how to carefully manage them so you can protect the members and the organisation from risk. The second thing is, particularly with peer support, many organisations are going to need to consider how to handle online conflict and online safeguarding. The third thing is that some people are fearful or reluctant to use technology, so earning their trust is going to be really key. The fourth thing, and I know most of you will know this, but digital can scale at low cost, but it isn't free. And I'm quite surprised how often people don't often think about budgets to build and budgets to develop. And the fifth thing is, with online community, it isn't for everybody. As I always say, there's always a place for face-to-face. So So my top tips, 12 years worth of online community management experience, trying to distill it down onto one slide. So my community top tips are inspired by gardening because I think the principles are so similar. So first of all, know what you want and the tools that you need. Secondly, the early stages or those seed stages take a lot of time and effort. And that's where you need to be listening and building with and building for your community to ensure its success. Thirdly, like pruning, moderation is hard, but it's really important. There are going to be things that you really don't want in your online community, or unfortunately people that you might not want in there for very good reasons. Fourthly, think about picking your great community moments to showcase why your work matters. And fifth, renewal is always going to be important with digital services. You're always going to be adding and removing and changing. So that's great. I think the community is a garden idea because it's so organic and it's constantly growing. It really helps me to think it through. So if I was going to summarize everything on one slide, you know, the too long didn't read, I'd say that building meaningful community is like gardening. And I'm terrible at it personally, but I'm good at community management. It takes a lot of time and effort to build community meaningfully and build it well, but it is worth it. And 18 years later, you could have a service like Talking Point, which I'm honoured to work on. So that's my main talk. I was thinking maybe if we have a couple of minutes, if Mike can share a video just to show the impact of the community with us, that would be really great. So I'll hand over to Mike.
Wow, thank you so much, Serena. And that's really, really powerful, beautiful stuff. And
thanks, Claudia. Thank you. If anybody wants to reach out to me, I've added my slides here. So if you have any questions, I've got my email there and my blog. So yeah, thank you very much.
thank you, Serena. And as Mike said in the chat, if anyone has any questions, please pop them in the Q&A section, and then other people can actually upvote them. If that's a question you'd also like to ask, you can click on one and we'll ask them all at the end. So thank you so much, Serena, for sharing the really powerful story of how you've built this online community and really practical steps as well. The thought of building a community of 80,000 people is quite intimidating, but you've really broken it down into, you know, achievable and practical steps.
Thank you. Diolch yn fawr, everybody. Thank you.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Serena. So if you step off this virtual stage now, we'll invite up Win. Win, if you're ready, if you pop your camera on, perfect. And I think Mike's going to share the slides. So now we're going to hear Win all about his community share offer with Mentor Team.
I'm not sure if you can hear me. My sound's a bit dodgy this morning, but can you hear me? I think we're going to start with a video with my presentation, please. If you could play the video from YouTube, please, Mike. Great, thanks, Mike. So yeah, what I'm going to talk about this morning basically is our attempt to buy a local pub. So I've just got a little story to tell you about how we went about it digitally, how we went about it during a pandemic, and how we got the community involved, not only the village community, but what we call like a community of interest of people that like to support this kind of enterprise. So just as a way of background, if we can go to the first slide, please, Mike. So just you've probably seen it from the video there. Llandwrog's just a really small village, about 5 miles away from Carnarvon. It's on the Carnarvon to Pwllheli Road. The village itself has about 350 people living there. But as a cyngor community, as a community council type area, there's about 2,500 people living there. So there's approximately 2,100 people living in the area. But the village itself, it grew alongside Lord Newborough's Glynllifon estate, basically. Plas Glynllifon was built in the 1830s, and the first record we have of the current building in Llandwrog is from around that same time as well. And lots of the properties in the village were built around that time to house the staff that were working on the Glynllifon estate, basically. So within the village, we've got a school with about 50 odd children. We've got a church, and we've got our local pub, the Tin Llan. Now, the Tin Llan has been quite an active pub. We've lived in the village for about 13 years, and the Tin Llan was quite an active pub whilst we were here. But it was always a tenanted pub, and the landlady usually used to give, or the owner of the building rather, used to give tenants 5-year leases. And then in 2017, the current tenant decided to leave, and the owner of the building put the building for sale for £475,000, which was very expensive for the building, for the amount of work that needed doing on it, for all sorts. And then sadly, about a year and a half ago, the owner of the building died. So it was taken off the market on the open market. Obviously, we had to go then through a probate process. And then early February this year, it came back on the market as a probate sale for £350,000. The next slide, please, Mike. So basically, when we started, we talked about doing something as a community for a while. When it was empty, as I say, it went empty in 2017. We'd always talked about doing something as a community, but it was just too expensive. The building was too expensive on the open market. But when it came back on the market as for a lot cheaper than it was as a probate sale, 4 of us got together and just started looking at ideas how we could go about buying it as a community. So we decided to hold a public meeting over Zoom, as is everything nowadays. We just wanted to outline what we wanted to do, plans for buying the pub. We wanted volunteers to get involved. We were going to ask people to consider lending us money to buy it, because I've worked on a few community share offers over the years, and I know they can take time. So we were quite keen to try and get the property off the market as soon as possible. So what we did, a little bit different to usual community share offers, we asked people to lend us the money so that we could go to the estate agent and prove that we had the funds to buy it, and then take it off the market, and then implement then a community share offer to, well, it wasn't really repaying the loans. We've never actually drawn down any loans. It was basically to replace the loans, if you like. So we had this Zoom meeting, about 100 households got involved. We put together a little small social media campaign to get people involved with volunteering, to lend us money, that kind of thing. We got the community involved in what they wanted to happen in the pub, whether they wanted it to just remain as a pub, whether they wanted to be a community hub, a restaurant, a cafe, function room, that kind of thing. We had about 200 questionnaires returned from the village. And then in 3 days, we'd raised enough loan pledges to basically put an offer in, which was a little bit under what they were asking for. And that offer was then accepted, and we were able to buy the pub. As you can imagine, because we raised these funds in 3 days, the press were loving it. So that then helped us with a lot of initial momentum to sort of plant the seeds for the social media campaign for the share offer. So next slide, please. So what we did then was, after the initial meeting, we set up a community benefit society, and the initial group of 4 developed into a management committee of 14. We set up a business account. We set up a number of subgroups out of the 80 odd volunteers that offered to help. We set up a number of subgroups that looked at things like, developing the business plan, marketing the share offer, events over the summer to fundraise, the building itself, because there's a lot of work that needs to be done on the building itself. So we got everyone involved with these subgroups. But we're really, really lucky in the village. We've got a fantastic mix of skills. We've got builders, surveyors, landscapers, videographers, as you've seen in the video that I played earlier. So by the end of April, the business plan and the share offer documents were completed, with everyone helping out and putting their input into it, via the questionnaires and via a couple of people leading on writing it up. So following that, we implemented then the community share offer, which is on the next slide, please, Mike. So we launched the community share offer on April the 29th, and it was a 6-week campaign. And the deadline was June the 11th, which was last Friday. And we set ourselves a target for £400,000, because We were able to buy it for, the offer accepted was 325 against 350. With costs and everything, we needed 333, but we put 400,000 because we needed, to cover sort of, initial works in the building, that kind of thing. Then we created a launch video, as you've seen. We created a little simple website where people could register for buying shares online. We had paper versions of the form as well, because we're obviously mindful that not everyone is online. We had lots of press coverage and loads of social media. And the community were able to support us by physically distributing information locally. We sent leaflets across Wales to shops. Basically, in most towns in Wales, you've got shops that sell Welsh goods. So we sent the leaflets to all these shops, and we had sort of local ambassadors, if for want of a better term, local supporters dotted around Wales that helped us distribute leaflets to people that weren't online. We also developed merchandise, because shares were £100 minimum, but we were mindful as well that people may want to support that couldn't afford £100. So we developed merchandise, and the chocolate that you saw in the video, and t-shirts, which I'm wearing today. So people were able to buy these through a local business called Atra, and the girl that owns Atra, Atra is a shop that sells Welsh goods. The girl that owns Atra lives in the village, so she was able to sell these through her shop, and 100% of the profit went towards the campaign. So with the social media campaign, social media is a really, really powerful tool, but it's only as good as its content. So our strategy very early on was to ask people, celebrities, to put videos together of why people should support, because we were mindful that obviously we've only got 300 odd people living in our community, but we needed to create a community of interest so that people from further afield would support as well. And throughout the whole process, our comms are set up to attract investment, but it was also to update the community regularly as well, via local Facebook group, public meetings, weekly total updates. So it was a daily by the final week, and we put out regular MailChimp publications as well. Next slide, please. I'm conscious my time's nearly running out, so I'm going to sort of power through these next ones. As well as celebrity videos, we asked people that had invested around the world to sort of create little 30-second videos for us as well. So we have videos from Canada, from Australia, just to highlight that you didn't really have to live within however much radius of Llandudno to support the project. As I say, it's a community of interest. So we wanted to make sure that people from around Wales, around the UK, around the world were supporting for whatever reason. But whatever those reasons were, we wanted people to film it so we could share it to encourage other people to share. Previously, Vans, as you can see there, he put a video together for us. You can play that if you want, but I don't think we've got time, Mike. So people could watch that afterwards. So and we had a good mix of bilingual videos as well, because Llandudno itself is a very Welsh village, but we were conscious that we need investment from non-Welsh speaking people as well. So that was really, really important to us. So in terms of stats, just to bore you a little bit, in terms of web visitors, we had over 5,000 in May. And then in the last couple of weeks of the campaign, we had nearly 6,000 just in half of May. We had 44,000 video views, 84,000 reach on Facebook, 27,000 engagements. So the stats are there for you to see. But the outcome of all this was, with a target of £400,000 in 6 weeks, was that we achieved this figure. So, which is now 466,000, because a little bit more came in the last couple of days as well, sort of by post. So yeah, that's basically it. We've done it type of thing. So that's pretty much hot off the press from last Friday, even though you may have seen it on social media because we've been blasting it everywhere. So that's us. Thank you very much for listening.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Wyn. Such a great story, such a positive story, and a really good example of how you can just create this positive feeling using online engagements and achieving all of this during COVID times and during lockdown in a relatively small amount of time, considering. So it's amazing. So thank you so much, Wyn. I'm sure people will have questions, so please do pop them in the Q&A. We will pick those up later. But now we're going to move on to our final speaker. So I'm going to introduce Luke to the stage, and he's going to talk about some of the great work that he's been doing to engage young people online. Thank you, Luke.
Thank you. Let me just click share here. Today, I'm kind of going to give a quick introduction to what Technocamps is, because I'm sure most of you may not have heard of Technocamps. And then I'll go on to how we've actually been using Minecraft to engage with the local community, not just in my area in Swansea, but across Wales, Cardiff and Swansea primarily at the moment, but hopefully more in the future. So let me click the slide. There you go. So Technocamps is a schools outreach project. We're funded by the Welsh Government, as well as we've got a lot of funding at the moment for a project from the ESF. And we work with all universities across Wales, but we have 5 main hubs in universities in Swansea, Cardiff, Bangor, Glyndŵr, and USW. And we've been doing this since 2003 through various different, pots of funding. At the moment, we're probably our biggest project ever, and it's been a quite hectic period, to say the least, to try and be working in schools when they aren't actually in school. And you'd think Technocamps would be the kind of people that could adapt quickly, and luckily we did to virtual delivery. But hopefully things go back to normal from September. And everything we do, as it's fully funded, is free. And just quickly, some of the things that we offer. So primarily our workshops are around STEM enrichment and how to get computer science to be more part of the wider curriculum rather than just as a subject on its own, which goes hand in hand with the Welsh new Welsh push for the curriculum that's come out. We've got playground computing workshops at primary. We also do a lot of upskilling teachers to be able to teach these concepts at whatever age they're teaching at. We also do a lot of things outside of schools. So we've got a really big push, and part of our funding is based on how many girls we can get to actually consider careers in STEM. And we've got after-school coding clubs, lots of ambassadors from the various universities. We've got a Girls in STEM network, a Women's in STEM network. So there's a big push really on lots of other things outside of schools as well. And I haven't got enough time to talk about them all today. But here's just a summary of all the things that we do quickly. So we've got these Techno Lives, the live streams we put on every week. We've got the Girls in STEM Cymru initiative. We've got the Women in STEM. Techno Teachers, the teachers CPD side. We've also got part funding from the Institute of Coding in Wales, and we've got a research branch as well. So there's a lot that Technocamps does that I can't talk about in this thing. But another thing we just started is launching a podcast to go alongside with promoting more girls into STEM. So if you want to find a podcast, search Technocamps on Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. That's a new thing we're launching as well. There's a lot going on with Technocamps. And one of the newest things we've been doing, probably since we started doing this in the coding club before Christmas, and since then it's just gone wild, is starting to use Minecraft. And the reason being that, I don't know if any of you have ever mentioned Minecraft to a class of kids, but just mentioning it, they all go crazy and they absolutely love it. And it's something that they can't imagine that you can learn through it. It's just playing, but it's actually a very good environment to teach a lot of concepts and actually give them the skills that they want, that they can apply then to the real world. So it's very interactive. It works on the majority of devices that you've got, and every pupil in Wales, every school pupil who is in a state-funded school, has free access to the Minecraft Education Edition through the Hub platform. And it's not just about building blocks and so on. You can actually do some chemistry. You can make elements and then combine these elements to make glow sticks and other various things like dynamite and so on. And children love it, and including big children like myself and my team, we also love it too. And it's a great way to use it to teach various concepts through the medium of Minecraft, as long as you can get them to listen and not just play. So our Cardiff hub was doing a lot of competitions. They kind of started pushing this more. So they had a competition with, based around the Cardiff Council sustainability plans and how we can get pupils involved in thinking about these green spaces and the environment. So they had a competition called Craft My City, which ended up having about 50 entries where the kids would actually think about these kind of things and design their own park or green spaces for the city. And they've also done a competition with Valindra Cancer Trust, where they were designing a new cancer centre, so a building for their cancer centre. And again, that's a competition. And I think the ambassadors in Cardiff spent over a month building, as you can see in that picture, like a scale, one-to-one scale map of that area, with various things around it that the kids could go and explore, so that it gives them this immersive feeling and it lets them recognize that area as the place that they know in their local community. And that's really important and something that we've tried to implement in the future things we've done, which I'm now going to talk about. So the first one that the Swansea Hub got involved with, we were approached by For the Region, who are very active in South Wales and in bringing people together and the communities together, as well as South West Wales Connected, who are kind of linked with the Great Western Railway. And they had a kind of a project. The Milford Haven Council was looking to revamp the train station in Milford Haven, and they were going to use shipping containers to do so. And as soon as I heard that, I thought, well, what would be a great way of doing that is to actually get the kids to use code, because you can do some coding in Minecraft to build the shipping containers, and then learn a bit about construction and how you could go about doing this kind of project and what you would need to consider, and put this into a few workshops that we did with the schools, and then see what they come up with and see what they design for the building in their community that they recognize. So instead of going through the slides, and you can look at the pictures on the slides, but I've got Minecraft loaded, and which is probably why you can hear my fan so loudly in the background. Ignore my little character there. So I spent a good few hours on a Friday evening building Tesco, and then my teammate Jack spent a lot more time doing something really, really cool, which was, and they're all gone. Well, in this room, all the stakeholders are usually there, and you can ask them questions. And each stakeholder would have, they would be, I don't know, from the council, from the local area, maybe they're regular shoppers in that Tesco and so on. And the kids could go up and ask them questions and see what they wanted, and then use that to kind of think about what they could actually implement, what's realistic, what's feasible in their project for when they're building their train station. So we did various sessions on that, and we also put together like a furniture showroom, so that they could get an idea of how you could represent furniture and interior design within Minecraft to actually implement that in their builds. And this world is one of the pupils' work. So I'll just show you what they've come up with and kind of things that they've done. So as you can see, they've used code to build these shipping containers and come up with designs, and they learned all about the physics of tensile strength. I'm not an expert on engineering, but tensile strength, flexural strength, and so on. They learned about accessibility and kind of how you could represent ramps, which isn't easy to do in a block-based programming, a block-based environment like this. But they were doing things like making sure they had bilingual signs. We hadn't even mentioned that to them. They came up with that idea themselves. And it's just really, I'm so impressed. When I sat watching Jack, our team member, actually deliver this session, it's the first time in about 4 or 5 years I've gone, wow, that I've genuinely been amazed by what we are doing in school. What we do is great, but this really stood out as the amount of effort that went into it, and just what the pupils came up with at the end. And I think what really led to them doing such good work was the fact that we kind of tried to make it immersive and represent what the area looks like. So that was our first kind of major project with the community, and the work the kids did was amazing, as I said. What we then were approached, so I think word got out about the kind of things that we were doing, and there's some more you can read about this workshops there. And this, yeah, so I've gone through that. And we were approached by the Swansea Co-housing group. And these people they were, obviously the Swansea Co-housing group, also there was Christopher Gutteridge from Southampton University, who was heavily involved with making the world for Minecraft, which I'll show you is very impressive, and also National Community Land Trust Network. So they all approached us and knew the work that we were doing with schools, and they wanted a way to get into schools because you can get a lot more engagement with young people if you can get schools on board, local schools. And usually primary schools and most secondary schools will get involved if it's something that they can see has value to their local community, and that the pupils will actually enjoy and get invested in. And there's opportunities to actually learn some skills around that as well. So they approached us with the idea of promoting the idea of co-housing. So you get people from all generations living together and sharing community spaces. And they approached us with this idea of these 3 sites in Swansea that were kind of derelict and could be revamped maybe potentially to be co-housing sites. And we ended up going with the Fanoni House building, picture here. And what we've done with the pupils, and we've only just done the first session on this, so we kind of did an introduction, talked about what co-housing is, the history of the site and so on, how the world was generated using LiDAR. So we've actually got a Minecraft world, which is generated by data from LiDAR. So it's like a plane with a big laser on it that maps the whole area. And you kind of get an idea, a really good idea of the scale and the buildings that you can see as if you were just looking down from a map. So I don't know how quickly I can change worlds, but I want to really show you this because it's really exciting. And what we are doing then is kind of using this to teach them about the history of architecture, the history of the site, getting all these kind of topics from from across the curriculum involved. And I know it doesn't look that great from here, but this is Swansea generated in Minecraft. So there's not much detail, but you can easily make out. And if you recognize Swansea and you fly down further down there, you'll find the Grand Theatre and Brangwen Hall and so on. And Swansea University is over there. And we've built this site where they can actually build their designs, so implement the things they've learned about co-housing and architecture, and then apply it to this map, which we've given to all the pupils. So they really have to think about scale. How can they fit, or how big can bedrooms be in different living spaces and so on, because they're confined to the buildings that are there. And we haven't finished this project yet, so we're waiting for the next couple of weeks now to see what they actually come up with, which is going to be exciting. But I guess that is kind of what we've been doing with Minecraft and how we've been engaging the community. So just to go back to my slides, just to finish off. So the outcome of this, hopefully, is we've arranged, so with Oriel Science, who are another outreach kind of project in Swansea University, they have an area or a building in the city centre of Swansea, and we've arranged that any work that gets created will actually be displayed on screens in the window, so that anyone that creates anything, they could go down and anyone can see their work displayed there. And I think there'll be a really nice touch for them to know that is going to happen. We haven't told them yet, so that's going to be quite exciting to tell them. And I guess the takeaway from what we've done, it's all happened quite fast over the last few months, is if you want to engage young people with the community and you have a project that's similar to this with building construction, then Minecraft is a really great way of doing it, and it gives you a lot of opportunities to actually teach a lot of concepts around it as well. If you create an immersive, recognizable world in the first place, you'll get a lot more engagement out of it, and they'll feel a lot more connected. And you can imagine in the future, they'll be driving past this area in reality and then going, oh, actually, I built that, or I helped design that, and so on. Gives you an opportunity to develop cross-curricular skills through workshops on the community project. Really nice way to get engagement is to work with local schools and target them. If you can find a way in and get them on board, then you can get a lot more engagement out of it. And of course, it's not just the pupils, it's their parents and their family. They'll be telling about what they've been doing. So it kind of gets a wider community involved. And the incentive of having their work shared on YouTube. So we share video clips of all their creations on YouTube. They love that if they can feel like they're a YouTuber. And getting it displayed in an area in city centre, I think that's going to be really memorable, and it'll stay with them probably for the rest of their lives. So that's me. I rushed through that, but hopefully I covered everything as much as I could. Thank you.
Thank you, Luke. I mean, wow, I'm absolutely blown away. What a clever way to engage young people and make it fun and make it something that they'll respond to. That was fantastic. Luke, you can stay on the stage, and I'm going to invite Serena and Wyn to get back on the stage with us and join us. And we've got a bit of time now. We're going to go through some of the questions. So as I mentioned earlier, if you'd like to ask a question, just click on the Q&A button on the top right-hand corner. You're more than welcome to post your questions in English or in Welsh. We have someone on standby who can translate. And if you don't mind, state your name and your organisation so that we've got an idea of who you are. And if your question is for a particular panellist or for all of them, let us know. If you like one of the questions that's already in there, and I know a few questions have already been posted, then please do click on the up arrow icon if you'd like to upvote it. That's useful for us to know which ones are popular. and we'll try and get through as many of these as we can in the next 15 minutes. So please fire away. So I'll start with some of the questions that have already been posted, and I'll go in order of upvotes, really. So I'm going to start with a question for Serena about your work. Can you provide details around how your community were engaged in developing and building Talking Point?
That's a great question. Yeah, I think co-design and building with is really important, like I mentioned earlier. So at the beginning of Talking Point's history, the founder was actually instrumental in coming up with the ideas, and he stayed as part of the team for about a decade, actually. So he was one of the volunteer moderators and continued to contribute to the services development for pretty much the first 10 years. So that co-design element of building with your community team, volunteers and employees is really important. And then when we rebuilt our service to move to a completely different software platform back in 2017. And we did phases of kind of rebuild where we worked with our volunteers and with some of our active users. We brought them into the team to help with testing our new areas. We had like a sandpit community, and they were giving us live feedback. And we then fed that into how we rebuilt the service. And also each year we use an annual user survey where we ask people for their questions on how the community could be improved. And we take that feedback, we look at what's most popular, then we then look at what's feasible, and we build that into the following year's development plan. So in that way, we're always user-led, and the following year we're building on that feedback. So that's 3 ways of how we do that.
That's great. Thank you so much, Serena. And interestingly, for Wyn and Luke as well, do you have any thoughts on how you engaged people or sort of targeted people in the work you guys are doing?
Sorry, I didn't hear the question, Claudia, because my audio went again.
That's okay. It's just about how you managed to reach the people that you were engaging and involve them in building the community.
Yeah, as I said in the presentation, we put just loads of emphasis on social media because our time frame was quite short. So, and that's what I do for a living. So I know how powerful it can be, and I know because I've worked on community share offers before as well, and I know that videos work. I know by targeting, I don't like the word celebrity bite, but people that other people might be aware of more than us. We were aware that they would have a big following as well, so they would share, their followers would see it. So we did a little bit of a paid campaign on Facebook as well, so that we could just push it a little bit further. Not much, just a couple £100, but because the campaign there were quite a lot of peaks and troughs with the campaign at the start. We had a really good surge at the beginning, then at the middle it sort of slowed down a little bit, which is quite normal for this kind of campaign, and that was the time where we sort of spent a little bit of money. And then, as I say, in the final week, I think on the Wednesday, we went up something like £60,000 in 30 odd hours. So it was just, yeah, it's great.
Yeah. Amazing. And taking a question for Luke now. I've got a question. How did you deal with having young people from different schools using Minecraft collaboratively? Were there any issues around that? And also, what age group of students were you working with?
When we've done workshops with schools or workshops with schools, we tend to do it with just the same class, and that's just because of safeguarding. You don't really want to mix classes or schools with pupils. We have done the after-school coding club, and you can get all of the pupils into the same world working collaboratively. But what ends up happening is they'll find out how to shoot arrows at you when you're trying to explain something, or they actually made. So Jack was teaching one day, and they made him invisible by throwing a potion at him, so no one could see him. So what we ended up doing was deciding actually it's better to give them all individual worlds that they can work on individually. If they are friends and they want to work collaboratively, that works. But in general, you'll still end up getting them destroying what their friends have done and so on. So a lot of effort actually goes into stopping that from happening. But it's better in general just to keep them in the individual worlds.
That's great, thank you. Next question now is, this could apply to everyone. How do you ensure that your online community meets everyone's needs? So, for example, people with visual impairments, etc. How do you make sure that you're meeting all of their needs, everyone can engage? And this could go to any of the panelists. Yep, Serena.
I'm happy to share first from Talking Points perspective. So yes, for me, thinking about a number of things. So when you're thinking about things like meeting needs for visual impairment, for example, which I think is part of the question, thinking about how your software works with screen readers and how your software works with, other kind of tools that people might be using. So if you're building something that's compliant with a modern browser, then you're more likely to be able to build something that will work well for people who might be bringing their own tools and their own kit. And then just thinking about things like user testing and how you might build in some rounds of user testing, particularly if you're serving a particular group of people and you want to check that you're meeting their needs. And then just thinking about what features you might need that will be useful. So we have an auto-save feature on Talking Point because we have people with dementia using the service where memory can often be a problem. So things like that, I think, can be more helpful. But generally building with and making sure that you're meeting people's needs as you go is the most important thing.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, because obviously a lot of our work was on social media channels. We were tapping into Facebook's accessibility tools, that kind of thing. But sort of moving forward with our project, our chair's daughter is visually impaired. So it's something that we're going to be implementing braille menus, that kind of thing, because it's really important in our village, really important everywhere, obviously. So it's really important, it's something that we want to implement as we're moving forward as well. So, yeah.
For us, it's always been a thing that's been difficult to do because the technology, mostly we teach kind of coding and programming, and that's all a very visual thing. I do know that there are new technologies coming out now, or new kind of ways of interacting with coding, and you can have kind of braille blocks you can put together. I think I've seen that. But it's something that we always make sure that if we make videos, that there's kind of closed captioning and obviously audio kind of leading them through. So it's not just about kind of what they see on the screen, making sure that you actually explain everything well enough, giving instructions. And as computer scientists, we usually give quite concise and good instructions on how to do things, and making sure we do that in all the videos. Yeah.
That's great, thank you. I'm going to take a question specifically for Win now. What are you most looking forward to as the project continues?
I suppose the obvious answer is to have somewhere to go for a pint, but it is a little bit more than that. Now, I think just to get the whole community involved, because when the pub was open, the customer base was quite small, really. You used to go there maybe on a Friday night and you'd have 10 sort of blokes sitting around the bar type of thing. But it's been really important to us from the start to get everyone involved, and that's why we want, obviously, to be there's a pub element to it, because that's what it is. But there's a restaurant there, there's a cafe, there's a function room where we can host, any kind of event that will be relevant for the whole community as well. But also getting the community involved in actually developing the pub, because we're looking to open in some capacity this summer, but the likelihood is that we won't be opening properly until next summer. So we've got a full year further of getting the community involved and maintaining their involvement, because that's been a challenge throughout the campaign, really, is to maintain people's interest through the whole process. So yeah, the way I see it, it was just the first step out the way. There's loads of work still to do.
That's great, thank you, Win. And then a question for Luke. In terms of your project, we have a question: how did you combine coding within Minecraft? Did you include sessions to teach them coding within the project?
Yeah, so in the second session, he's done a session on kind of surveying the land. So you can use, within Minecraft Education, there's actually already a built-in coding platform, and there's a little robot that you can give instructions to, and he can do various things, build things. So we're actually programming it, getting the pupils to program it so that every time it moved forward, it counted one. So you could actually measure the distance of the platform to kind of plan out, just giving them the idea of surveying, but using programming to do that. And then also we taught them how to make a function where they pre-programmed it and put any numbers in, and they could create a shipping container of various sizes. So that's how we got that involved in the session.
That's great. Thank you so much, Luke. Well, I think that's all we've got time for. If anyone does want to just quickly throw in one more question, we could have some time. But if not, I'm conscious of finishing on time. So thank you again to our wonderful speakers for such varied and inspiring and impressive stories about how to engage an online community in really different ways. That's it from us today. If you would like to stay behind to chat and to continue networking at your tables, then we're going to leave this room open for another half hour. So please feel free to stay on, and you can actually walk around and have direct conversations with people. And it's still not too late to book onto our other TechFest events that are happening this week. So please look at the program, which is in the chat box, and have a look at the other really interesting sessions we've got going on. Please do get involved. I hope you've all had a great morning with us, and I hope you have a great afternoon. And hopefully we'll see you again in some of our other sessions. So thank you again to the speakers. It's been absolutely brilliant and really inspiring. So thanks a lot.